Good deal.
Good morning from Australia, Michael Trucco. It's an absolute pleasure to meet you.
As well, you, Shane. Thank you for having me.
I want to get to a little bit of Midnight Mass shortly, but first I'm here to talk about, well, it was called Through the Glass Darkly when it
Right.
was, when it was being filmed, but it got changed to Disappearance at Lake Elrod. Just watched it a couple of days ago. You are a nasty piece of work. What sort of research did you do to be so obnoxious?
I've had 50 years of practice. Typecasting. No, the thing is, I was speaking to somebody else about this very subject. I find it intriguing. I like playing the antagonist, the bad guy, simply because unless you're doing a broad comedy, the chin stroking, naked cat petting, villain, the sinister villain who twirls his mustache, nobody in real life ever paints themselves as a villain. Nobody sets out to be a bad guy.
Yeah.
It's your point of view, it's your perspective that people might dislike. And so the trick I find to characters like this one is giving a justification for the motivation of the character and living in a world and trying to be as truthful to that world. And sometimes people are just, they're bad seeds, but you don't want to judge the character and come off as evil. The writing is there, the work is already done in the script and the direction, and so my goal is to hopefully portray a realistic take on the villain, on the bad guy, and it's fun, it's exciting, and listen, every movie needs somebody to hate, so I'll do it.
Were you always up for the character of Trip Carmichael, or did you audition for any other parts?
No, that this is going a few years back when it came around, but no, it was originally presented to me with Trip in mind, and I read it, and there was a moment that I did have a discussion where, again, because it's fun to play the bad guy, but my instinct was like, well, what about the sheriff?
Yes,
that's a cool role. So I think I maybe lobbied for a second, and tried to throw my hat in the ring for the role of the sheriff, but that had already been taken care of brilliantly by Stan Houston. And it's just so right. He's great as the sheriff. And I mean, a part of me was like, my dad was a cop. So I was raised the son of a police officer. And I like playing cops. And, I like that sensibility. So I was angling for the sheriff. But then I read the script and I realized that even though it's not a huge part in the film, the character is important to the narrative.
Right.
The family, the whole, the Carmichael family, the maternal, the matriarch of the family and this whiskey empire. And I was like, okay, this is cool. So, and then several factors. Then I saw it was Lauren Fash, and I love that this thing was written, produced, directed all by women. This is a female
exactly.
up and down, and that excited me greatly. So I wanted to be a champion for that cause, and if I can lend my name or in any way help that cause, I'm on board.
Yeah, in a world of women for this movie, Trip was not a great person to be around. So,
no.
I'm glad you're a nice guy in real life.
Thank God, when he's not flaking on his appointments. But other than that, I'm a nice guy. Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, this is you're right. This was a movie that was up and down. It was a very female centric. It was about the women in the characters. It was about the women behind the scenes, and I had to come in and be the asshole guy. And so they were very gracious, and everybody treated me very fairly.
That's good. I thought Trip was an extension of your character in the Nicolas Cage movie Next, because the role was also equally as obnoxious and horrible towards women.
Good call, buddy. I love that you just name called Next. That's fantastic. That was one of my most enjoyable 4 days on a set. That one scene that I got to do in that movie with Nick Cage and Jessica Biel.
Yep.
I mean, talk about like an actor's dream. I idolized Nick Cage. When I was starting as an actor, that was the guy, that we would all just go, whoa, he's so interesting and he's so unpredictable. And here I found myself on a movie set getting to do a fight with Nick Cage. This is amazing, man. So that was also a very unlikable character and a kind of a creepy, stalkery character. I don't know why. Yeah, now you're starting to make me think, why do I keep getting cast as these roles?
Well, I won't bring up Wishmaster 4, but you've come a long way since then.
Boy, yeah, have I? And that also, yeah, man. Yeah, okay.
They're all linked to Trip.
You've done your homework, Shane. I'm impressed.
Now, you worked with Judith Ivey as your mum in
That's
this
right.
movie. Wow, she's worked with some greats like Paul Newman and so forth. So how was it her playing your mum, and what was she like to work with? Because she was almost equally as nasty as you, but of course she'd be a lovely person to be working with, I'm sure.
And you nailed it. Divine. But as are, the pros in this business, people who never forget how fortunate we are to get to do what we get to do. You hear those things about do what you love, follow your bliss. Those make great bumper stickers, but when you can actually apply that, and I get to do what I love and make a living at it, that fact is not lost on me. Every day that I wake up and get to go to a set is the greatest day of my life. And Judith is of that same school, and she has, a huge career and has worked for decades in this business and
Yeah.
still has that same gracious quality that I admire when I'm looking to work with people. And what a gift. She's so good that it can't, what they say, rising water, the rising tide lifts all ships.
Yes.
When you're on set with somebody like her, she's great. You can't help but up your game to match, the performance that she's giving. So we had a great time on set. We really did. And I only got to meet her that, brief time I spent with her there. It was the first time I'd met her. But it's nice to get to walk in the shadows of giants like that.
Well, you're a solid actor yourself anyway, so it's nice to hear that your colleagues and on projects equal you as stature and help you rise to the occasion, and that makes for good chemistry on film. No need to tell you that, I'm sure.
Definitely. Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, yes, I was fortunate to work with Katie Sackhoff in Battlestar Galactica, and she's 10 years my junior, and I felt like she elevated my game every time we did a scene together. And so, yeah.
Well, she elevated me because I interviewed her when she was in Sydney, and she's like about a foot taller than me.
Oh, yeah. Is that right?
She's awesome.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, she's great.
Is it important, or how important to you is it to work on independent films? Because The Disappearance at Lake Elrod is obviously an independent film. Lauren Fash has put a lot of effort into it, great direction with a limited budget. Indie film important to you?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's an endangered animal, the indie film and film in general. I think the cinema is we're close to going the way of the dinosaurs. So I think it's more important than ever, and more important than just independent film. This one particularly interested me, like we spoke about before, Autumn Bailey Ford. We have a female producer, we have a female writer, we have a female director.
Yeah.
I want to be a champion for that cause, because when you are on a movie set in general, the general crew is split largely. There's men and women, but for some reason, when it comes to the positions of director and producer and writer, that's a notoriously male-dominated aspect of this business. Yet there are so many creative voices in other departments, the women, and they have equal say. So why did we decide that we suddenly have to marginalize, a woman can't direct a film? And that's ridiculous. It's complete bullshit, because this was Lauren's freshman effort. This was her directorial debut. And the best compliment that I can pay Lauren, I've been doing this for 25 years. I had no idea. I heard on the set, or I think she said something to me. She's like, "Oh God, I'm freaking out. I can't believe it's my first movie." I was like, "Are you kidding?" She'd never carried herself like somebody. If she was scared, or if she, maybe she was joking, but if she was, she never showed it. She was under control the whole time. She had complete control of that set. She was creative. She was a communicator. People respected her. It was such a great experience to watch that. And I thought, man, if this is her first movie, let's see what she's going to do next. Because
good career ahead. Yeah,
she pulled it off. So the independent film is a place where that voice gets to be heard. And sometimes you don't need the big budget. You don't need the $70 million in the lycra suits and the capes and the spandex, and you just got to tell a great story. And an independent film allows an artist, a writer, to tell a great story for a limited budget, and you find people who believe in it, and you get something like this Disappearance at Lake Elrod, and you go, that was worth it. And it's not a game-changing money job. If I'm speaking very frankly, you don't take this because this is going to suddenly buy me my summer house in Spain. This is something that you do because I want to be a part of this. That's why I want to be an actor. I want to have people like, I get to talk to you and people go, hey man, that movie, I didn't see the twist coming, and it was that's gratifying for me. So.
Yeah, I want to keep spoiler free, but you're right. There is quite a dynamic twist in it, and I think that has a lot to do with Lauren, as you say, that the direction. And for her to be a debut in the director's chair, she's got a long career, as I mentioned, for sure.
I think so. Yeah, because it's hard to mask that kind of twist and let your audience. I liken to a magician, a magic trick. We all love when the guy goes, you see the card, and now it's gone, and now it's back, and and we all go, how did you do that? And we want to know how you did it, but we'd rather. It's okay that we don't. You can't help but just go, hey, thanks for the illusion. Lauren did that and was able to mask the twist in this, and that's not easy to do. Sometimes, the story can get away from you and people go, oh, I know where this is going. I know where this is going. And then they go, yeah, I told you so. And when you can get an audience to go on a journey with you and they go, I did not see that coming. That's a good filmmaker.
The house that Tripp lived in, was that the house that all the crew stayed in on set?
I don't know. That was an actual house.
It looks nice. Yeah, it looked good.
It was nice. Yeah, they probably could have housed everybody and nobody would have ever seen each other. We were in Georgia. Was it Alabama? No, we shot in Georgia. Yes, we were in Georgia. And that was an authentic Southern style mansion.
It looked great.
Yeah, it did. And it was really cool because you could feel the history of it. It was almost like a museum piece. And the movie is also, this is not spoilery, the movie is set in the 90s.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool because what it does is it eliminates this from the storytelling, from the narrative. You take this device out of the narrative, out of the story. And I just think that's great. It's no particularly, it's not like it's set in the 70s, the 50s where it's super, period piece. It's just the 90s. And I love that. I thought that was a really cool choice.
Yeah, I noticed people on landlines. So yeah, very 90s.
Yeah, and did you see? I think I had a blue shirt with like the standard like power collar and the braces. Like it was very 90s. Yeah, and the slick hair.
Yeah. Tell me, I've got to mention Midnight Mass. That's currently a global phenomenon. What a show by Mike Flanagan. Your character again is very different. I couldn't recognize you. I thought that's not the guy from Next, is it? It can't be. What was your entry point into Midnight Mass? Because Mike usually used a lot of familiar and same actors, but you haven't worked with it before.
So my entry point was a 2015 film called Hush.
Okay.
And that's also talk about a small budget independent film. This was when Mike and Trevor Macy, his producing partner, these guys were just percolating, the pressure cooker. This was
just about to explode.
They hadn't gotten their deal with Netflix yet. In fact, when Hush was completed, it went to the film festivals and there was a bidding war to get the rights to Hush. And right? Mike and Trevor were both holding out because they wanted Hush to be a theatrical release. This is 2015, 16, and that was the thing. Like, man, we wanted this movie to go to the theaters, but it was Netflix that kept sweetening the pot. Okay. And eventually they won the property, and it was just the right, smart business decision because that's what you're there to do. You're there to sell a movie and you sell to the highest bidder. But Netflix knew they had something. And then that ultimately, I'm sure that helped open the doors for those guys. And then they have this deal with Netflix. So I got into their circle back then. And I knew on my first day on set, Shane, that I was among greatness with Mike Flanagan. And you just knew it. And I can't tell you, I can't put my finger on one specific thing, but there was my representation, my agents, my managers, when the job came, the call came in and the offer came, they said, this is, again, not a big job. It's not a lot of money, but we think that Mike Flanagan, the word on the street within the industry is like, this is one of those, they call them the ones to watch, keep an eye on Mike Flanagan. And we think this would be a good idea this is somebody you want to hitch your wagon to. And they were right. They were absolutely right. And I actually talked to Katie Sackhoff because she had done a movie with him just previously called Oculus.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to her for a referral, and she spoke, highly of Mike and said, definitely jump at the chance. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made because come full circle now. I actually was meant to do an episode of Haunting of Hill House.
Oh, I see. Did
I
you
was
get
out
that?
there. Yeah, I was in Atlanta doing a pilot, and Mike goes, "Hey, do you want to come and do a thing for Hill House? Because he loves to pull people." And I said, "Tell me when." And we had it all set to go, and the episode ran long, and there was budget cuts, and that scene was going to be a whole nother location, and they had to cut the scene, so it never happened. And I was like, oh, damn it. But then, time goes by, we all do our thing. And then February of 2020, yes, early 2020, pre-pandemic, right before the world went to hell,
Mm.
Trevor Macy called me and said, hey, do you want to come up and come in Vancouver for a couple months and play on this thing called Midnight Mass? And I was like, where do I sign? So, I mean, I can,
Mayor of
I
Crockett.
recall. Yeah, exactly. And that's when he goes, so you're going to be the mayor? I was like, okay. And then I read the script. I was like, I'm not that guy. Are you? He says, wowzers in golly, So I had to create that Wade Scarborough character that you see was a whole fabrication of just, we had to come up with this guy. And I guess we did.
Wade's moustache was very impressive. Was that your homegrown moustache?
So funny story. I spent all the hiatus, by the way. I had a little bit when we were about to start, but then I had plenty of time. I'm not one of those guys who can just do the mountain man beard. So it takes me a while, but I finally proudly grew the mustache. We came back to work in August of 2020 and they said, hey, awesome. Looks great. Got to shave it off because we have these prosthetic pieces that made us look older.
Yeah,
And
right.
they kind of increase the weight in your face
Yeah.
and they glue right along here. And this you has to be completely clean shaven in order for those to adhere.
Okay.
So it all came off, and then they put on a big dead caterpillar instead, and that's what I wore every day.
A couple more questions before we wrap up. The beach scene. Now, again, keeping it spoiler free, but there is a lot of cats on this particular scene on the beach. It seemed like the camera kept rolling. What is that like for you as an actor, where you've got people and actors walking around you, and there's like one take? Was it hard to prepare? Did you practice it, or did Mike just say, "Right, go for it"?
No, it's exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. We had, in fact, all of the hiatus to prepare. We were going to rehearse that scene on March 13th, 2020, and that was a Friday, and we had rehearsal set for that day, or
Friday
maybe
the 13th.
and yes, it was, and that it was set for either Thursday the 12th or Friday the 13th, and then the whole world shut down, and we got the plug pulled, and so I had all of the hiatus to sit there and contemplate that scene and get the dialogue down because you want to get that part out of the way. Then the logistics of we have to put it on its feet. We have to go to the beach. The camera is moving around us. Other actors are stepping in and out of the, come over here. Hey, here comes Igby's character, and there's Raul's character, and he
That's
goes.
right.
It all has to coordinate, and it's like I love it because I started in the theater, so it's kind of like flying without a net, man. When the curtain comes up on stage, you go. It's go time, and if you don't know your shit, somebody's going to either feed you a line or you got to improv your way out of it. So fortunately, it was day one, by the way. That was one of our first days of shooting.
Day one.
Yeah, I was like, hey, thanks, Mike. Way to start us off. Not something light. We're going to start with a 9-page oneer. And I think we did 6 takes total. And I think the one that you see in the show is take 3.
Okay.
I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong, but I remember it was fairly early on. It was 1 or 2 that we stopped because of sound. Maybe it was just a logistical thing about, the camera was in the right place. And then when we got through all the way, and Mike goes, that's good. And then I think the 3rd take, he's like, we nailed it. Let's just do it again. So we have it. But he knew that the one that we got is the one that you see. And, by the way, there was no seagulls on the beach that day. None.
Oh, that was CGI?
All of it.
Okay.
Every seagull on the beach. Yep. The cats were there. Of course, they were prosthetics. Those for everybody, all the animal lovers. And I've owned 3 cats. I have 3 cats. I love cats.
Yeah.
No dead cats, no real cats, no animals were harmed in the making of Midnight Mass ever.
That's good.
But the seagulls, even when Rahul, the sheriff, kind of, punched that one seagull out of the way. Nope, that was all CGI. Yep.
Wade's got this look on his face in some of the church scenes when Hamish is doing the sermons. Like, are you acting there, or are you just watching Hamish do his thing? Because it was incredible, some of those scenes in the church when all the
They-
town is together.
Thank you for, yeah, it's funny. I just wrote a friend of mine. We are just texting before I took this meeting. What you see from Hamish, again, those takes are nonstop. Mike just lets the camera roll. That's Hamish, and Hamish is a skilled stage actor, as we all know, and he's a phenomenal Shakespearean actor. It was like going to church. I mean, can I get an amen? It was the scenes would end in the background that we had, playing the residents of Crockett Island. Hamish would finish his sermon, basically, drop the proverbial mic, and everybody would just start breaking out in applause. And Mike would come back from, he go, cut, great take. Guys, there's no clapping in church. He would have to instruct us not to clap. You couldn't help but clap. Wow. So I found it, as Wade, very easy to just be in that scene and be in that moment. And yeah, essentially, what you see is what you get. That was me, Michael. That was Wade, the character, listening to Father Paul preach it. And you felt it. And so I was really happy that Mike picked up that he had cameras on everybody in the church pews. We each had our own close-ups. And sometimes those kinds of days when it's one guy talking and we all just kind of sit there, you can kind of mess around, have fun, you're checking your phone. None of that. Everybody was riveted by Hamish.
Well, you had great chemistry with the actors who played your wife and your daughter, and the show's phenomenal. I hope you get to work with Mike again. So congratulations on that.
Me too.
Disappearance at Lake Elrod. I hope people watch it because it is an indie movie. Right. It is spot on, and it's got a really good way about it. I like it. It's not too scary. It's not pretty, but it's a good thriller drama.
Great, exactly. It's a great thriller. It's with a great popcorn thriller. Yeah, you want to go on the journey. That's what I love about a movie like that. You go in and you're like, take me on a ride. This movie takes you on a ride.
And I bet you didn't think I'd refer Tripp's character to Wishmaster 4 in Next. So I'm glad I surprised you.
That is a first, I gotta say. You have that distinct pleasure. I've never had somebody ever reference either Wishmaster 4 or Next. So I'm impressed.
Great to meet you. I'll just stop recording, buddy.